Imagine this scene. It's a calm, cold evening, January 2008, in Islamabad. The sun's gone down behind the Margalla Hills.
Oh,
Major Tariq Mahmood, retired now, is having coffee, cardamom spice coffee, in his living room.
right.
And across from him is his friend, Mr. Arslan. He's just retired too. A senior guy from the FIA, Pakistan's Federal Investigation Agency.
Seasoned officer.
Exactly. And they're trading stories, like old colleagues do. Some funny, some maybe a bit tragic.
Yeah, the usual service tales.
But then Arslan tells a story from his FIA days that Major Mahmood said just chilled him completely. A story that apparently still haunted both of them.
And it's a true story. That's the thing. It's about, unimaginable cruelty, really, disguised in a way you just wouldn't expect.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, this deep dive covers that exact account. It happened back in August 2004. A baby became an unwilling participant, a silent accomplice in an international drug smuggling plot.
Horrifying. And the source we're using for this is The Drug Baby, a tragic smuggling tale written by Major Mahmood himself based on Arslan's account.
That's right.
And it's that disguise, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what makes it so terrifying. It tells you so much about, evil and also about human desperation.
It really does. This isn't just some grim anecdote. It shines a light on the, frankly, shocking ingenuity of drug cartels.
And the depths people can sink to. It forces you to think about that line between, instinct and just pure evil.
Absolutely. So let's go back. August 2004. Think Peshawar, Pakistan. It's incredibly hot, sweltering, and the airport, Bachakhan International, is bustling.
Okay.
Mr. Arslan, our main figure here, he was the deputy director for the FIA there.
Yeah.
And that airport, it was a known hotspot.
Right, a nerve center for trafficking, especially being in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa near the border.
Exactly. Mountainous region near Afghanistan. A challenging place for law enforcement.
So, set the scene. It's about 3 p.m. in that heat.
Yeah.
What happens?
Inspector Salim comes rushing into Arslan's office. He looks worried.
What was it? What did she say?
Salim's concern was urgent. He tells Arslan, look, there's this family. Their papers check out. Everything looks legit. Visas are good.
But. There's always a but in these stories.
Yeah. Salim says, something's off. Just a gut feeling from an experienced officer. He couldn't put his finger on it, but his instincts were screaming.
So Arslan goes to check them out himself.
Immediately, he goes to the checkpoint, and they're there.
Describe them for us. What did he see?
A family of 3. The man looked maybe mid-30s. His wife, veiled, maybe in her 20s.
And the baby?
A baby boy, tiny, barely a year old. And he's lying completely still in his mother's arms. Just quietly sipping from a milk feeder. Unsettlingly still, apparently.
Still, okay. So Arslan's there. His team's uneasy. What happened during that first check? This is where the red flags really started, right?
That's exactly it. They do the standard checks, search everything, visas look fine, luggage goes through the scanner, comes out clear, nothing.
But,
The sniffer dogs, the canine units, they went nuts.
really, barking.
Incessantly. Circling the couple, reacting strongly. But the officers couldn't find anything on them or in their bags. It was a total contradiction.
Wow. So the dogs are signaling like crazy, but visually, nothing.
Yeah.
What did Arslan do next? Did digging deeper help?
Well, Arslan trusted his team, and his own gut was telling him something was wrong too. He decided to take them to his office, a more thorough inspection.
Okay, away from the main floor.
Right. Female officers checked the wife very carefully. Arslan himself checked the husband, rescanned the bags. Still nothing. 0 narcotics. It was baffling.
It sounds incredibly frustrating. You got this strong signal from the dogs, this gut feeling, but no actual proof.
Exactly. And the tension must have been rising, especially with the dogs.
What about the dogs in the office?
The handler was insistent. He trusted his dog. He asked for one more pass inside Arslan's office.
How many?
The moment the dog came back in, it wasn't just barking. It was a fierce growl. A deep, nonstop bark. Tail rigid, nose twitching, focused right on them.
Intense. How did the family react to that?
That was also strange. The mother just kept gently rocking the baby. And the baby, still utterly motionless, not a peep.
So even with that reaction from the dog, Arslan had to let them go. Legally, his hands were tied.
Pretty much. Without finding any actual drugs, despite the dogs, despite the gut feeling he was bound by procedure, he had to clear them for the departure lounge. Reluctantly.
But it didn't sit right with him.
Not at all. The source says, something gnawed at his instincts, a quiet itch in the back of his mind that refused to fade. He watched them walk away on the CCTV monitor.
Okay, so they're walking away, heading to the lounge. He's watching the monitor. What did he see? What finally clicked?
He was watching the wife. She was still holding that same milk feeder, the baby still in her arms. And then it hit him. Something chillingly simple.
What was it?
The baby hadn't moved. Not once. Not a cry, not a fidget, not even a blink. Just absolute stillness for the entire time. That observation combined with everything else.
Oh, wow. The dog barking right next to it?
Exactly. That was the thunderbolt moment for Arslan. He suddenly thought, why didn't that baby cry when the dog was barking just inches away? Any baby would scream or startle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other piece, why was the mother so insistent that the female officer not examine the baby separately earlier?
Right. She resisted that.
Those two questions just completely changed everything. The lack of physical evidence suddenly didn't matter as much as this deeply unnatural pattern.
And he acted fast then. Pure instinct taking over.
Instantly. Didn't waste a second. He grabbed the phone, called Inspector Munir, told him, bring that family back now.
And the specific instruction.
This time, the baby must be examined separately. No arguments.
Okay. So they bring them back. How were they this time?
They were back in his office within minutes, and they looked completely different. Pale, nervous, visibly shaken. The pressure was clearly immense now.
And the separate examination of the baby. What happened as the officer went to do that?
As the female officer reached out, prepared to take the baby to examine him privately, the mother just broke.
Broke how?
She resisted at first, clutched the baby tighter, and then she just collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably.
And this is the moment. The awful truth.
Yes. The female officer gently took the baby and immediately knew the baby's body was limp and ice cold.
Oh, no.
She checked for a pulse. There was none.
So the baby was already gone?
Had been for hours, but it got worse.
How could it get worse?
The inspection revealed why. There was an incision on the baby's abdomen, very skillfully sewn up.
An incision? What for?
Inside, stitched into the hollowed-out cavity, were 2 kilograms of pure heroin, wrapped meticulously in airtight plastic.
Oh, my God.
The baby wasn't just dead, he was a corpse. Used, desecrated, turned into a container to smuggle drugs.
I have no words. Just horrific. So, faced with that, did they confess? What did they say in the interrogation?
With that kind of irrefutable, ghastly evidence right there.
Yes.
They both broke down completely in the interrogation cell.
What was the story? How did this even happen?
It was chillingly calculated. The father admitted he'd been approached. A narcotics cartel operating out of Afghanistan.
And they offered him money.
10,000 US dollars, a huge sum for them, presumably, to transport the heroin.
And the plan? Using the baby.
That was the cartel's pitch. They told him it was foolproof. No one would suspect a family with a baby. It's just a level of depravity that's hard to grasp.
How did they do it? To their own son.
It's almost unbearable to recount. They admitted they suffocated him together in the middle of the night with a pillow.
They suffocated their own child.
Yes. Then they took his body to some underground clinic run by an illegal practitioner, probably paid a lot of money,
And this practitioner.
removed the child's organs, stuffed the heroin inside the cavity, and then carefully stitched him back up.
This is beyond monstrous. Did they understand? Did they know he wouldn't survive?
Yes. That's perhaps the most horrifying detail of all. They knew he wouldn't be for the journey. The source is explicit. They didn't care. The money was all that mattered.
It's hard to process that level of detachment. And you said this kind of thing, well, maybe not exactly like this, isn't isolated. Cartels are always finding new ways.
Sadly, yes. This case is extreme, obviously, but it points to the cartel's constant, almost boundless innovation in trying to beat the system. They are relentless.
Can you give some other examples just to show the lengths they go to?
Sure, they are often quite disturbing. Remember back in 2010 in Colombia, a woman tried to smuggle cocaine into Spain inside her breast implants.
I think I remember hearing about that. Breast implants?
Yeah, and there have been cases reported out of Mexico, killing dogs, stuffing them with drugs, and then mailing them, airmailing them.
Awful.
And of course, the human mules swallowing dozens of drug pellets. It's incredibly dangerous. If one bursts, it's usually fatal.
What about closer to Pakistan, or more recent examples?
Well, in 2013, right there in Pakistan, authorities busted a group using the interiors of coffins.
It's awful.
Yeah, smuggling heroin to the Middle East, exploiting the sensitivities around funerals. People are less likely to scrutinize a coffin.
That's exploiting grief itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was another horrific case in Bolivia. A woman was caught planning to surgically implant cocaine into her mentally disabled child's abdomen.
Oh, God. Did they stop her?
Thankfully, yes. Authorities got wind of it before the surgery happened. but the intent.
The intent was there. So, looking at all these examples, what's the takeaway?
It just paints a grim picture, doesn't it? The ingenuity of evil, it seems, really knows no bounds. It's like this constant escalating battle. Law enforcement finds one method, the cartels invent something even more desperate, often more depraved. The human cost is just staggering.
So, going back to the drug baby case, what happened to the parents legally?
Well, Mr. Arslan considered it one of the most sensitive cases he ever handled, understandably. The couple was immediately handed over to the ANF, Pakistan's anti-narcotics force.
And the chart.
They were tried under the control of Narcotic Substances Act, CNSA, from 1997. And for crimes this heinous, that act carries the potential for a death sentence.
Did this specific horrifying incident lead to any changes in procedures at the airport?
Oh, absolutely. The FIA acted immediately. New internal directives went out. Standard procedure became, if it's a high alert operation, any minors must be inspected separately. No exceptions.
And for infants specifically?
Mandatory medical inspection for infants on international flights, especially in flagged or suspicious cases. It was a direct lesson learned from this tragedy.
You can only imagine the impact on the officers involved, especially Mr. Arslan. What did Major Mahmood write about the psychological toll?
It was profound. Years later, Arslan told Mahmood, I've seen smugglers hide heroin in sandals, Quran boxes, even wheelchairs, the usual, albeit creative, methods.
Yeah.
But this, he said, this was beyond comprehension. It just broke a barrier of understanding for him.
And there was that line about silence.
Yes, that's the quote that really stays with you. Arslan said, I still hear the silence of that baby when the dog barked. Silence is louder than a scream sometimes. It speaks volumes about the trauma.
Wow. Silence is louder than a scream sometimes. That's haunting.
It really is.
Hearing all this, you just keep coming back to that basic question. How? How could parents do this? What drives someone to that point, even if nothing can justify it?
It's the question that hangs over the whole story, isn't it? And while you can point to factors like extreme desperation, grinding poverty, the manipulation by ruthless cartels, the source is very clear.
Then none of it excuses it.
Exactly. It cannot justify such a fundamental betrayal of parental instinct, of basic humanity. The story serves as this dark parable. A
warning that evil isn't always obvious.
Precisely. It doesn't always wear a monster's face. Sometimes, as the source suggests, it smiles, rocks a cradle, and carries a milk feeder.
And what does Arslan's role tell us about security, vigilance?
It's a powerful lesson in the value of human intuition, isn't it? We have amazing technology, scanners, trained animals, all crucial. But that day, it was Arslan's gut feeling, his observation of subtle human behavior, or the lack of it, in the baby's case that cracked the case. The human mind, connecting dots machines might ignore, experienced human observation remains vital.
So beyond the horror, what does this deep dive show us about the wider world of drug trafficking?
It underscores that it's not just a cops and robbers game. It's fundamentally about exploitation, exploiting poverty, exploiting weakness, exploiting addiction.
And in this case, exploiting life itself, and maybe even love or the appearance of it.
Exactly, exploiting the very image of family, of innocence. It shows how evil can mask itself in the most intimate disguises.
It's an incredibly grim story, almost hard to listen to, but it feels important that it's told. That it's remembered.
Absolutely. And then think about the outcome. Arslan's sharp instincts, his refusal to ignore that itch in his mind, stopped those drugs.
Right. That heroin didn't reach its destination. Who knows how many lives that potentially saved down the line.
Exactly. He prevented immense harm. But there's always the other side of that coin in this story.
The unbearable cost.
The unbearable cost. A child murdered by his own parents, his body desecrated for profit.
It brings us back to that question. Major Mahmood was left with that cold night in Islamabad, the question Arslan's story forced upon him.
Yeah.
And it's the question we have to leave you, the listener, with today. Can humanity possibly fall any lower than this?